Hello, today we're going to be covering the laser removal and reinstallation on a PS3 Slim. As you can see, the Slim, we already removed the top cover. Instructions to do that should be easily found on YouTube. And what we have now is we have the laser drive here. We're going to do the exchange without taking the laser drive out of the unit to make it a little easier. This happens to be a 2501A, so it's going to have a 450 style laser with a dual laser eye. You should see somewhere KEM450. This is a DAA, but any 450 should fit. So what we're going to do first is remove the top cover. There's a screw right here, as well as two set screws there. Once you loosen these screws up, you're going to have two little tabs, locking tabs on the side. You're going to need to release each side, pulling them out away from the drive, and then the top will become loose. Sometimes they click back in place, so you got to make sure you keep them loose. Alright, once the lid's off, you're going to have your next piece to remove. There's two screws in the front of the unit. There's a screw here and a screw on this side. Once those are loose, you have two locking tabs back here that you need to squeeze the little releases on, and then that releases this part. So you have two locking pressure points here and then two screws in the front. We're going to set that on top of our top cover. Now the first thing I would do is release your laser cable to get that strap off. And then the next thing, you're going to have two small wires which are strapped in. So taking a flathead screwdriver or a probing tool, you can push down on the wire and release it from both of the securing metal points underneath. And then once those little metal rods are lifted up, your shaft should be loose here. So you're going to take the shaft, which the drive is on. We're going to move our wire off out of our way here so we can get the shaft out without much trouble. Okay, our spring, which holds our little guide here in place, popped out, so we're going to remove that to keep that from getting lost in the machine. And then the best way to do this is to rotate the laser on its side so that you have the room. You need to move the laser down to get it off, to release off the spindle. It's a little bit more tricky than opening up the whole unit, but it's a time saver once you get used to it. We're going to basically get the shaft out of our way here to make this a little easier. Okay, once the shaft's out of your way, you can turn it a lot easier and it comes right out. Now our little spring, which puts the pressure on that, came out of these two pins, so we're going to want to put that back in later. So then we're going to prep our new laser by putting that spring-loaded section, screwing that on. So we're going to go ahead and get that ready. You have one set screw on the bottom of the laser. Most of the time, new lasers won't come with this piece in place. You're going to need to take this off your old drive and put it on your new drive. Alright, so almost dropped my spring there, but we're going to keep the spring for last here to make this a little easier to get back in. So now we're going to take our new laser. And you kind of have to drop that whole assembly kind of into place all at once here. Making sure that that right side that catches the spindle motor goes underneath. So we're going to try to do that in one motion here. There we go. Alright, so we basically now have our unit somewhat returned to the normal position. Okay, so now all we need to do is get our get our rods on the ends here back out of our way. So we're going to lift them out of the way and bring them up on top of the drive. Then we're going to make sure our pin is now, this is our guide shaft, that needs to be with the two stops so that it can't go back and forth. So it's all the way down, sitting on your adjustment screw sets so that your drive is aligned properly. So now that that's back in place, this can be lifted up and positioned into place and then secured down so that the pressure keeps the keeps it in place. Alright, so now that your spindles, your bar is in place and our drive is set on the guide, the stepper motor over here, we can take our spring and reload that spring in there to keep the pressure on that spindle. This is going to be a little bit tricky. This is not normally, these don't always pop out, but in this case it did, so we're going to put that spring in. There's two little pins in here and it goes in between them. One thing you have to watch is that it doesn't disappear while you're doing this. It'll like to shoot off somewhere and go in a direction somewhere. Oops. Like it's trying to do right now. Best bet is use the small tweezers, grab the one end. Grab the one end, rock your first position in, and then bring your other position into place. There we go. Alright, so that's back in there, unloaded. So when you move it back and forth, your spindle turns, or your stepper motor turns, which is what you want. And then reattach your cable, and then and then close everything up the way it was before. Alright, so we're going to put our top lid back on. Make sure our magnetic secure wheel is back in place, and then I usually leave those rear pieces in place. Drop this back on top. It should lock itself into place. In the front here, where the pressure points are. The benefit, again, of doing this is you don't have to remove the power supply and all the other hardware back there, which sometimes you will do if you do it by removing the drive. So we're back together. Let's give it a shot. Test things out here. One thing you'll notice, the easiest thing to tell when a laser isn't working, the laser won't spin. When the laser's burned out, the drive won't spin. So I just heard the drive spin. So we should be in good shape. So we're gonna go ahead and check our game thing out here and there. Yeah, so you can see it's now reading the drive pure. So, but what you hear typically when a laser goes bad in a PS3 is you hear a thunk 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 noise, which is the laser positioning itself 3 times. It makes 3 steps trying to fire up the laser head, and if it can't fire it up, it just makes those 3 steps and then doesn't spin. So that's the telltale sign. You can actually hear that when you put your disc in, and then your disc doesn't spin. When a laser's working, the disc spins up, and you can hear the whirring, and you can tell your drive is healthy. So this drive is fixed and ready to go, and thank you for watching.